youngest child of a family of 8 and just not being loved. Lastborns are actually the most spoiled children. They are the ones that where the parents almost do everything for them. Because, you know, the word lastborn, I don't know whether it's in all the families, but I'm Namibian and I've seen it even in other parts of Africa, that lastborn are actually very much treated differently. When you are the lastborn, I'm telling you, I'm not a lastborn in my family. I'm the firstborn of 7 children, and I'm the girl, and then 5 boys follows, and then we got our Lady D. We actually named her, me and my mom, after the amazing Princess Diana, because we loved her so much. We loved Lady D so much. And then obviously we got this little girl. I had to say get because I was the only girl, so I was praying always for a little girl. And then we got Lady D, so she was not only spoiled by mom or loved by us, but her dad adored the ground she was walking on. Lady D dad, oh my God, he loved her so much. She had these names that she was calling her, special names. So what I'm trying to say is, being a lastborn in a family is always that kind of thing where it's almost like beneficial, okay? However, in this specific family, the lastborn was actually not loved. So now we're gonna wonder what happened. Why was he not loved? And you're wondering, who am I referring to? But I think the name already gave my game away, right? So welcome back to Jesus is Enough Ministry, and today we're gonna take you through a walk of who was King David, who was the boy who later became the king, therefore being called King David. I have a 14-year-old, his name is King David. It wasn't a name that I got out of nowhere. He was named specifically by God. I'm gonna tell you why I say specifically, because in fact, according to me and many of the ultrasound that we did, I did 3 of them. According to that, and the midwives in Namibia, you have these women that massage you, and they will know whether the baby, I don't even know how they know, but they will know whether the baby is a girl or it's a boy, whether you are expecting a girl or a boy. They somehow know. With my firstborn, they were very accurate, it's a boy. And with my secondborn, I was expecting a girl, and I was in heaven. I clearly that time wanted a girl. So now imagine, so that's where I'm going back to, in the sense that, in fact, I couldn't have named him King David because I was expecting a girl. And me and now my ex, obviously my ex-husband, back then my husband, he was very excited because I think he's probably a girl's dad. He wanted a girl so much. I at least wanted to give him a boy, you know. With his excitement and so on, I was happy that it's a girl. So we named her after our favorite actress, without no scandals, at least back then, I don't know now, Omotola. So it was gonna be Omotola. However, then God spoke to me, and I'm gonna come with that story just to share a little bit of that before we go to the man whose name my son was named after. So before I go any further, please subscribe. Obviously, you know, right? You don't have to pay anything for subscription, okay? So subscribe, come on. You're enjoying the video, why not subscribe? And don't forget to push that notification button so that every single time we load a new video, you are being notified, okay? I was told by Pastor you have to know the scripture, and then the Holy Spirit say that you just have to know what to say. You don't have to know what the scripture. Wow. Okay, welcome back. And before we actually look at what we're gonna discuss today, because it's actually something that we discuss in church today, but I'm not going to come from a perspective of what the pastor was preaching about, because although the pastor was talking from a perspective of like when you are chosen, and we're gonna go there too, I'm actually wanting to go to the background information of what happened with King David. Anyway, let me go to my son. So I was expecting a girl, as I was saying, and I was sitting, I arrived in Canada by then. I'm just about to give birth, maybe a month before that, and I'm very excited. And God said that, I don't remember correctly because I write my things down when I talk to God, but he said, so name him King David. And I'm like, King David? Like, first of all, that's a title name, right? Because obviously, and I'm like, King David? And then God said, King David. And I'm like, and it's funny, I'm gonna tell you what I told God, because I'm like, God, are you crazy? Like, what's going on, you know? And I'm like, God, like, what's going on? Are you crazy? Like, are you confused? I think I'm gonna be honest with what I said, because I was also like shocked, because how do you name a baby girl King David? And then God says that, no, it's not. You are not expecting a girl. You are actually expecting a boy. And I'm like, a boy? But I went to 3 ultrasound. They all say it's a girl. And I also had them, because the midwife massaged me when I was in Namibia before I traveled. So I was like, what? I was shocked, literally shocked. But, you know, obviously this is God. We are talking about God who knows everything, right? So I had no choice than believing in. I'm like, Lord, really? I'm expecting a boy? And you want me to name him King David? Okay, so I wasn't really anti King David, like the one in the Bible, but I know like the story of Bathsheba and Uriah and so on. I didn't really like it, and I didn't really like him, so he wasn't really my favorite character in the Bible. My favorite has always been Peter, by the way. So when he said I should name him King David, I'm like, why would I want to name him King David, and why the title, you know? I think that time God started now revealing. For example, I was asking like, oh no, David did this and this and this and this, and he didn't like it and so on. But I think one of the things that God revealed during that time was that King David was very humble. And I didn't really understand the humbleness that most pastors were talking about King David. But one of the things is that when you are in a high position, sometimes you get carried away to be able to feel like you did something wrong, even against God. But David was not that kind of person. David was very apologetic. Maybe he was Canadian. I suspect that David was probably very, very Canadian. Because I think you know where I'm taking this to, right? Canadians are known as the most apologetic nation on earth. They apologize for literally everything. I remember a friend of mine, Grace, said that she arrived in Canada and within 30 minutes she already had the unnecessary, she said, apology like this, I'm sorry, in Canada within like 30 minutes of arriving. She's already had it like 3 times, I think she said. I think I'm gonna put her post here. Anyway, but yeah, David was probably Canadian. Anyway, but that's what God said. God said that King David has, regardless of him being the king, he was still being able to say he's sorry about something. Remember that story with Uriah when the prophet, I think it's Prophet Nathan, I don't remember very well. Prophet Nathan, I think, came and tell him about the story, and then King David was just soaked in like just really, really crying and just, you know, realizing what he did and so on. Most of the kings wouldn't do that. Even right now, as I'm talking to you, most people who have positions and they're being told that you did this and God wants you to say sorry, most people wouldn't do that. Let's go back to what we want to talk about today about King David, and how it felt like he was the most unloved child, even though he was the last born. So we're gonna read from 1 Samuel 16, and I'm gonna take verse 1 to where. So let me read from here. The Lord said to, I want you to listen carefully, okay? The Lord said to Samuel, how long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel? Because remember, Saul was the king before that. Saul is the first king of Israel. I heard today from the pastor, and I'm not disagreeing, but I'm not agreeing completely, because I think I read verses where I know that Paul was not really God's choice in that sense. He was chosen by the people because they wanted to have a king, And I think Samuel has to allow it. But today the pastor actually said that Samuel was first chosen king. I'm not completely agreeing with that, but I'm going to read and come back. So I think Samuel were really not into this thing of like, no, getting another king. Okay, so, but Samuel said, how can I go? Saul will hear about it and kill me. Okay, Samuel was also afraid of being killed. The Lord said, take a heifer with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Invite Jesse to the sacrifice and I will show you what to do. You are to anoint for me the one I indicate. Okay. Verse 4. Samuel did what the Lord said. When he arrived at Bethlehem, the elders of the town trembled when they met him. I don't know why. Maybe they were afraid of prophets. I don't know why though. I would be happy to have a prophet coming. Unless it's fake prophet, and I'm not going to mention names, okay? So you are to anoint for me the one I indicate. Okay, so they ask, do you come in peace? I don't know what was going on there. Now verse 5 says, Samuel replied, yes, in peace. I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Consecrate yourself and come to the sacrifice with me. Then he consecrated Jesse and his sons and invited them to the sacrifice. When they arrived, Samuel saw Eliab and thought, surely the Lord anointed stands here before the Lord. Now, before I even go further on, Samuel was not really hearing from the Lord. This is the thing. That's why we say, that's why it's important to know that just because you are a prophet doesn't mean that you are hearing directly from God immediately. Sometimes God has to rebuke us. So this thing of thinking that, because you're a prophet, everything you say, it's the honest truth. No. Some prophets have actually contributed to the fall of many people in the Lord because they have decided to judge based on what they see. Because right now we can see Samuel was a very strong prophet. I think you remember, I don't know whether I've talked about Samuel on this channel, but Samuel is that young boy who was called and he thought Eli was calling him. Maybe we should go into Samuel as well. But, Samuel is actually Hannah's child. Then I have to go to the story of Hannah. Hannah was the one who was married to Hezekiah, is that? And then Hezekiah has another wife. Obviously, in the Old Testament, having many wives was just like going to a shop and buy groceries. So I think there was a Peninnah woman who was just kissing Hannah, and Hannah prayed until the prophet thought she was drunk, and then obviously Samuel was born, but 4 other children, but Samuel was sacrificed to the Lord. That's to cut a long story short, guys. I'm not here to talk about Samuel himself. Okay. So so what I was trying to say was that Samuel is supposed to be the prophets of prophets, like hearing from God directly. He was like what we call today like a man of God, like the apostle, But you need to realize that even them, they can hear wrongly. That's why I'm saying that God is not a respecter of person. He is not a respecter of people in that sense. Meaning that just because I am not a prophet in the sense of like anointed, in the sense of like maybe I went to school and so on, I can hear from God more than a prophet that they are now calling a prophet. And I'm not saying that in the sense like that's the case. I'm just saying that it's possible, okay? Because Samuel here judged Eliab based on his stature because he was tall. But that's not how you're supposed to judge. You're supposed to judge from the inside. Let's continue, guys. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things that men look at. Yes. Stop judging people based on what you see on the outside or what you hear them say. The pastor today was preaching that stop. Sometimes people might go through things and they might say wrong things, or even they might do wrong things in their relationships, but they are sold out for God. They say different. They say different when somebody go deliberately to deceive you, and they say different when somebody is sold out and maybe they make mistake. That's what the pastor said today. And I can hear from God what he's saying here. The Lord does not look at the things that man looks at. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Your heart is sold out to God. I can tell you that I might make many mistakes. I might maybe say the wrong word, but my heart, I am 110% sure, without a single doubt, that I'm sold out for the Lord, like sold out completely, and God knows that. Then Jesse called Abinadab and had him pass in front of Samuel. But Samuel said, the Lord has not chosen this, I don't know, I have such a big Bible, this one either. Jesse then had Shammah pass by, but Samuel said, no, nor has the Lord chosen this one. Now, looking at these people's name, I'm going to put a little video here about, I love King David when he was killing the Goliath, but this one is just a cartoon kind of thing. And you're going to realize that all these three people that are mentioned here are actually the one that actually eventually went to war, where David was sent to, eventually where he ended up killing, Goliath.
Eliab, Abinadab, Shammah, what are you doing? Why are you running away?
You'd better run yourself, if you know what's good for you.
Watch out, boy! But who is that?
It's Goliath, the giant. He's the champion for the Philistines against the people of Israel.
But why won't anyone fight back?
What do you mean? Look at him. He's too strong. He's over 10 feet tall. None of us could even lift his spear.
But what about King Saul?
King Saul will give a rich reward to the man who slays that giant.
He'll even let him marry his own daughter.
And none of you are brave enough to try?
No, because none of us want to die for no reason.
Aren't you afraid too?
You're too young to be here at all, David.
Yes, little brother. Go home and take care of sheep where it's safe.
No, I can't. Someone has to fight Goliath.
But who? Everyone here is afraid.
I'll fight the giant. I'm not afraid.
You?
Yes, God is stronger than Goliath. And God will help me. Go tell King Saul, I'm not afraid.
Nor has the Lord chosen this one. Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to him, the Lord has not chosen this. So he asked Jesse, are these all the sons you have? Now that's weird, before I even go further on. Now you have 8 children, and the youngest one obviously is taking care of sheep, he's in the field. But regardless of that, like, would you really forget to mention your own child, especially the last born? Like, this is why we study behind the scenes Bible information. Because even though the Bible is not saying anything here, you already know that something was going on right there. Something was going on. It's almost like it's not his child. It's almost like he is a stepfather to that child. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I always study behind the scene information. So then Samuel had to ask that for Jesse to actually answer. So he sent and had him brought in. He was ruddy with a fine appearance and handsome features. Oh, David was so handsome. Now, this is the thing. I guess it's Samuel asking, like, I don't understand. Like, you almost get confused. And I can see how the pastor was putting it on. Like, he was confused. I would be confused too, because you give me 7 children. God said he was going to anoint one of your children. God has not chose any of them. And then you go like, what's going on? And then after you ask, then the father say, oh, it's almost like an afterthought. Oh, there's another one actually in the field. Seriously? Now, let me tell you the story of King David. Actually, when you look at the background information of the story of King David, you would understand what's going on and what was going on at that time. Hello guys.